Have you ever given your all to help someone, only to be met with indifference or disrespect? Have you ever held the door open for someone, only for them to walk through without even acknowledging you? Have you gone out of your way to help a colleague, only to receive a sarcastic remark instead of gratitude? These moments make you stop and wonder, did I do something wrong? Before you start doubting your kindness, let's take a step back. The problem isn't with your kindness, it's about how, when, and to whom you extend it. Stoic philosophy teaches us that kindness is far from a weakness. In fact, it is one of the greatest expressions of inner strength. However, kindness without wisdom is nothing. This message is not about convincing you to stop being kind. Instead, it's about transforming your generosity into a powerful force that reflects your self-worth and values. Together, we will explore timeless lessons from Stoic philosophy and learn how to express kindness in a way that commands respect. First, why your kindness might be working against you. Imagine a man named Andrew. Whenever a neighbor's gate breaks, Andrew drops everything to fix it. When a friend's car breaks down, he drives across the city to give them a spare part. At first, people are genuinely grateful, but over time, his kindness becomes an expectation. One day, Andrew refuses to help because he's too busy. Instead of understanding, he faces criticism. Suddenly, he starts feeling used and wonders, do people even appreciate my kindness? We've all been in Andrew's position. Kindness without boundaries can easily be misinterpreted or taken for granted. Stoic philosophy explains that the issue isn't kindness itself, but how we practice it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul is dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your kindness comes from a need to please others or a fear of rejection, your soul is dyed with dependence. But if it stems from your values and self-awareness, kindness becomes a strength. Now let's consider another example. Sophia is an outstanding employee at a major company. She stays late, takes on extra work, and never complains. At first, her dedication is met with admiration. But over time, her efforts become expected. One day, Sophia refuses to work late due to health issues. Instead of support, her boss expresses disappointment, and her co-workers find it inconvenient. That's when she realizes, kindness without boundaries doesn't earn respect, it breeds endless expectations. Stoic wisdom emphasizes that kindness is not about unconditional sacrifice. It requires balance and wisdom. Setting boundaries doesn't diminish the value of kindness. It protects it from being exploited. Kindness should never become a source of frustration for the giver and a sense of entitlement for the receiver. The lesson here is simple but profound. Give with an open heart, but don't forget to set boundaries. Your kindness is a precious asset, not an endless obligation. When you practice kindness with intention, you not only protect your dignity, but also increase the impact of your actions. Second, the line between kindness and people-pleasing. Imagine Mark, a devoted family man. Whenever someone in his family needs help, Mark is there. He works long hours to support them, spends his weekends driving his kids to activities, and always puts their needs first. At first, his family appreciates his efforts, but over time, his constant availability becomes the norm. One day, Mark refuses a request because he's exhausted. Instead of understanding, he's met with guilt-tripping, but you always help. This is how kindness can turn into a trap of expectation and obligation. Stoic philosophy teaches that kindness is not about endless self-sacrifice. It is a conscious act that requires wisdom and balance. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul is dyed with the color of its thoughts. If your kindness comes from a fear of disappointing others, your soul is dyed with insecurity. But if it comes from your values and self-awareness, it becomes true strength. Now consider Lisa, a dedicated nurse who always supports her patients and colleagues. At first, her efforts are praised, but over time, they become expected. One day, Lisa decides to take a break to focus on her health. Suddenly, she faces criticism. You're not as available as you used to be. That's when Lisa realizes kindness without boundaries doesn't earn respect. It creates endless demands. Setting boundaries doesn't diminish your kindness, it elevates it. By establishing limits, you protect your kindness from being exploited and ensure it remains a genuine act of goodwill. Third, standing firm without losing yourself. Imagine Sergey, a man known for his generosity. If someone needs help moving, he's the first to show up with a truck. If a co-worker is overwhelmed, he voluntarily takes on extra tasks. At first, people are grateful, but over time, his help becomes expected. One day, Sergey finally says no because he's exhausted. Instead of understanding, he faces disappointment, even criticism. At that moment, he realizes his kindness, while genuine, was misunderstood and taken advantage of. Many of us can relate. When kindness isn't supported by self-respect, it can be mistaken for weakness. Stoic philosophy teaches that true kindness is not just an act of giving, it's intentional giving, rooted in personal values and balance. Take Natalia, a mother who always puts her family first. She sacrifices her hobbies, free time, and self-care for them. At first, her efforts are appreciated, but over time, her sacrifices become expected. One day, she decides to set aside one evening per week for herself. At first, her family resists. They're used to her constant availability. But Natalia understands. Without boundaries, she risks burnout and losing the value of her efforts. Stoicism teaches that boundaries are not walls of isolation, but bridges to healthy relationships. Boundaries don't make kindness weaker, they make it clearer and more respected. Fourth, finding the balance between kindness and self-respect. I remember an incident from a few years ago when I helped a close friend fix her car. She was struggling financially and couldn't afford a mechanic. I spent my entire Saturday diagnosing the issue, buying parts, and repairing the vehicle. At first, she was incredibly grateful. She even brought me coffee and pastries as a token of appreciation. But a few weeks later, when her car had another problem, she called me again. This time, she didn't ask if I could help. She simply expected me to. It wasn't that I didn't want to help, but her tone suggested that my effort was now taken for granted. That was the moment I realized. Kindness without boundaries is not only exhausting, but also devalues itself. Kindness should be a sincere and voluntary act, not an obligation. Boundaries are not walls that isolate us from others. They are bridges that foster healthy relationships. Take the example of Andrew, a hard-working professional who always took on extra assignments because he couldn't bring himself to say no. At first, people admired him as a dedicated colleague, but as his workload increased, he started feeling drained and resentful. Eventually, he decided to establish boundaries, refusing unnecessary tasks and focusing on his actual responsibilities. And surprisingly, instead of damaging his relationships, this clarity earned him more respect. Another example is a busy mother who sacrificed all her personal joys and hobbies to take care of her family. She spent every waking moment devoted to her children and spouse, neglecting her own needs. At first, her sacrifices were appreciated, but over time, they became silent expectations. One day, she decided to set aside one evening a week for herself, to do yoga, read, or simply relax. At first, her family resisted. They had become accustomed to her constant availability. However, over time, they noticed the change in her. She had more energy, more patience, and a sense of fulfillment. This experience taught her that taking care of herself didn't make her any less devoted. It made her stronger. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that kindness is not just about giving, it's also about knowing when to stop. A kind gesture carries more meaning when it is given freely and sincerely, rather than out of pressure or guilt. Ask yourself, do I truly want to do this? Does this action align with my values? Am I acting out of generosity, or am I afraid of saying no? Kindness should never come at the expense of your self-respect. A healthy balance ensures that your kindness remains a genuine force for good, one that enriches both your life and the lives of those around you. Fifth, turning kindness into a source of inner strength. Kindness is a beautiful gift that we offer to the world. But if it leaves you feeling drained, unappreciated, or taken advantage of, then something must change. The lesson from Stoic philosophy is clear. Kindness should come from inner strength, not a need for validation. Life will always bring moments when our kindness is met with ingratitude, indifference, or even exploitation. But these experiences should not deter us from being kind. Instead, they should teach us to be wise in how we express our kindness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one." This reminds us that the value of kindness is not in how others receive it, but in how steadfastly we uphold our moral principles. Imagine a colleague whom you consistently help at work. You go out of your way to support them, share ideas, and lighten their workload, only to find that they take all the credit for a project without mentioning your contribution. The feeling of betrayal is painful, but as Stoic thinkers remind us, the worth of your kindness is not measured by how it is received, but by your unwavering commitment to doing what is right. This principle applies even in intimate family relationships. Imagine a colleague whom you consistently help at work. You go out of your way to support them, share ideas, and lighten their workload, only to find that they take all the credit for a project without mentioning your contribution. The feeling of betrayal is painful, but as Stoic thinkers remind us, the worth of your kindness is not measured by how it is received, but by your unwavering commitment to doing what is right. This principle applies even in intimate family relationships. For example, a mother who lovingly prepares meals for her family every day. At first, her efforts are appreciated, but over time, they become an unspoken expectation. She finds herself always being the last one at the table, cleaning up after everyone, while no one acknowledges her effort. If her kindness is tied to the expectation of gratitude, she may feel exhausted and disappointed. But if her actions come from a place of love and self-assurance, her inner strength remains unshaken, no matter how others respond. Stoic philosophy encourages us to examine our motives. Why am I being kind? Where does my kindness come from? These are not easy questions, but they are essential. If kindness comes from a need for approval or recognition, it becomes fragile and easily shattered when others fail to reciprocate. But if it stems from inner will and self-awareness, then it becomes unbreakable, independent of how others react. Kindness in its purest form achieves a delicate balance between compassion and self-respect. It is the art of blending generosity with clear boundaries, empathy with wisdom. In healthy relationships, kindness should never be one-sided, where one person only gives while the other only receives. Instead, it should be a reciprocal process, fostering mutual growth and understanding. When kindness is practiced with wisdom, it does more than just alleviate suffering. It strengthens us as individuals. Seneca wisely observed, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. But that kindness must be thoughtful. When we are kind without sacrificing our dignity, we create genuine, meaningful connections. Because the truth is, you cannot truly be kind to others if you are not first kind to yourself. This requires self-awareness. Ask yourself, is my kindness constructive? Does it help both me and the other person grow? If the answer aligns with your principles, then your kindness is genuine, purposeful, and an expression of deep inner strength. In a world that often confuses kindness with submission, choosing to be kind on your own terms is an act of power. When you choose kindness, not out of fear of losing respect, but as a reflection of your values, you will earn respect, not from everyone, but from those who truly appreciate virtue. Ask yourself, does my kindness make me stronger? Does it help me live in alignment with my values? If the answer is yes, then your kindness is not just an act. It's a way of affirming your inner strength. Final thoughts. Kindness as a path to freedom and integrity. Today, we explored 5 powerful lessons on kindness, how to transform it into an inner strength, set boundaries without losing compassion, and ensure that your kindness earns respect rather than exploitation. These insights deepen your self-awareness and offer guidance on how to channel your kindness wisely, allowing you to live with confidence and dignity. Remember, kindness is never weakness. It is the highest expression of an enlightened soul, guided by wisdom and love. When you learn to give thoughtfully, kindness not only illuminates the world around you, but also becomes the light that protects and strengthens you throughout your journey. So don't be afraid to let your kindness shine. The world needs more of it. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.